Hey, good morning. This is Jamie Stegmeyer with Stonemeyer Games, and today is my weekly livecast on Facebook and later to be on YouTube, where you're welcome to ask any questions there or questions here if you're live. Today is e-newsletter day, so I sent out our monthly e-newsletter. Um, Today, as usual, is also cats eating food off the ground day. Yeah, so I sent out our monthly e-newsletter a few minutes ago. You're probably getting it now. If you don't get it, you're welcome to subscribe, or you can check out the link in the description of this video. I put it there for your convenience in case you want to check it out. So I will be talking about some of the things on that e-newsletter today. As usual, I'll answer your questions, and I have a few random topics to share as well. Um, I guess I'll start out with today's chocolate of the day, which I actually don't have on hand, but this past weekend was Easter and Passover, and we had little Easter bunny chocolate thing. So I have like a part of a mangled dark chocolate bunny on in the living room right now that I'm working my way through. Probably too gross to show on camera, but I am enjoying that. Um, yeah, so what is your chocolate indulgence of the day, or any treat indulgence of the day if you're having one today? Looks like Carol and maybe some others are on spring break today, so they might be able to join us for the first time. That's nice. I had a good friend who just had his family's spring break. They went to Harry Potter, the Wizarding World of Harry Potter in Orlando, and I was very jealous about that. I wanted to go there for quite some time and have that experience. I'm going to wait till after the pandemic to go, but I'm really looking forward to doing that someday and going to Star Wars World someday when they have the full immersion version of it ready and up and running. Looks like Chris is starting to read the Red Rising book. That's awesome, Chris. And David says, "What's the ETA for the Between Two Castles expansion?" Yeah, David. Yeah, I'll jump over to the e-newsletter. That's one of the topics here. So, in the e-newsletter, we say that in early May we will start to reveal details for the long-awaited expansion of Between Two Castles. Production is complete, so we're on track for a late May pre-order with fulfillment to follow soon after. So we're looking probably early May announcement, late May pre-order, and then June fulfillment for the Between Two Castles expansion. Sean mentioned my April Fool's joke this year, and yeah, it's kind of an odd one because it continues to get a lot of views. I don't know exactly why, but I did have fun with it. So on April Fool's Day, it happened to be on Thursday, which is when I usually post a blog post, and I posted a blog. Actually, I won't spoil it for you, but it's a fun little thing. It's cat related, so if you like cat related humor, feel free to check that out on the Stonemaier Games blog from last Thursday. Just a complete joke about my cats and the amount of attention they demand. Blog post about that. Uh, Shakid says, for several years now, I've been having trouble celebrating my birthday. It was my birthday about a month ago, and I still haven't done anything. What do you like doing for your birthday? Um, I kind of fall into that same boat in terms of I don't know how. Like I really feel truly compelled to celebrate my birthday because I don't feel like I've really accomplished anything related to that specific day. Essentially, I've survived another year, which I guess is an accomplishment. But it's easier for me to celebrate other things, like things that I've done or things that other people have done or other people's birthdays. And so the thing that I've done that actually I found really gratifying for myself for the last, I don't know, 10, 15 years is that on my birthday and on my half birthday, I donate blood. And so that to me feels really good. Like that to me is a way to celebrate life because I'm hopefully helping some other people who are struggling with whatever medical condition they have that requires blood. I have not done that during the pandemic, which is weird to me. And I probably this summer, since I am fully vaccinated now, this summer I will start doing that again. But yeah, that's how I've celebrated my birthday for quite some time now, and it's felt good to me. I know that's not for everybody, but it's felt good to me to do on my birthday. And usually I treat myself to a fun lunch afterward, and so then that feels good. I feel like I've done something good, and now I'll treat myself a little bit. Jesse says, "Have I ever played viticulture at a winery?" I haven't. I don't think I have. I've certainly played viticulture while drinking wine, and I've seen photos of people who have played viticulture while at a winery or even in Tuscany, which is really, really cool. But I have not played it myself. Have you, Jesse, or has anyone watching this played viticulture or played any game in a thematically related place? Carol says that she had a really good time playing Pendulum at 3 players. That's great to hear, Carol. Thanks for sharing that. We have a small restock of Pendulum that will arrive with the shipment of Red Rising, which I'll segue into that in a second. And I think there's a small shipment of the Scythe hardcover rulebook as part of that shipping container that's due to arrive. Now, our latest projection for that shipment, which mostly features Red Rising, for the U.S., our U.S. fulfillment center, our latest estimate, unless I have an email right now that says otherwise, no, I do not, is that it was supposed to arrive yesterday and it didn't. It got caught up in a backlog in Texas, some sort of trucking thing, and the latest day that we have is next Tuesday. I'm hoping it will arrive a little bit earlier than that so we can start shipping it. We're still on track for essentially what we said last week, which is shipping will start in early April, continue for champions through mid-April, and then non-champions in late April. But I will let you all know if that changes. Canada has slightly better news. It sounded like the Canadian shipment did arrive yesterday. I don't know if I have 100% confirmation on that, but that seemed to be the case based on what I heard yesterday. So in Canada, champions might start getting Red Rising shipping notifications later this week, or at worst, probably early next week. What else did I have to say about Red Rising? Oh yeah, two digital tools that are now available. And this is, I'm looking at my other screen on the e-newsletter. One is that there is a web-based interactive rulebook called RulePop. And if you go to RulePop, I think it's RulePop slash Red Rising, just look on the link in the e-newsletter. It'll take you to a really neat version of the rulebook where you can kind of click on different words that'll take you to a page. It's somewhat of a pop-up. It'll take you to a page that shows you information about that. I think it's mobile friendly. I've been looking at it on my computer. And also, just today, Tim Meyer, the guy who's been working on the full AI Tapestry digital app, created a digital scoring app for Red Rising. So if you don't want to use the score pad when you have Red Rising, you can use this digital app. It is web-based, but it is mobile friendly, so you can use it on any phone. And feel free to check that out as well. I think Tim did a great job with that. Amy is joining us today. She said, an upside to having symptoms for my second COVID shot was that she's out of work today and can watch this. Well, I hope you're feeling better now, Amy. I know that second shot, even the first shot, can be really tough. But I'm glad you're now fully vaccinated. You have your second shot. I guess we can't say that until after another couple of weeks. But that is great to hear, and I hope you feel better really soon. Ilya says, "What's a game that you think everyone should experience at least once?" I can think of so many games that fall into that category, but I'll mention kind of maybe an offshoot of that question, which is games that I think are worth playing once, but may not necessarily lead to future plays. For me, that falls into the category of really long games. Games like Twilight Imperium 4, Game of Thrones. Those are maybe the top two that come to mind. That they are a full, immersive, very long experience. They're very epic. And they're not games that I want to return to very often because of the time and the patience and the amount of attention they require. But I think they're worth playing once. I know some people play these games many, many times, especially Twilight Imperium. But I do think they're worth playing once to have that experience. Shakid says his father owns a winery and he bought him viticulture as a present. That's really cool. Hopefully he's gotten to play it at his winery. Par says, greetings from Sweden. What's your weather like today? Here we were surprised with a foot and a half of snow, but it's sunny and around 50 degrees yesterday. Or maybe that's a half inch of snow and around 50 degrees Fahrenheit today. Here it's in the 70s, maybe 80s today. It's pretty bright and sunny and clear here in St. Louis today. This past weekend I was in Kansas City, so we took a long weekend and drove out to Kansas City. It was my first road trip in my Tesla, which was a new experience to venture out into the unknown without being able to put gas in my car. It ended up being a great experience. And in Kansas City, we didn't actually play a lot of games. We only played one game. We played Fantasy Realms, The Cursed Horde, the new expansion for Fantasy Realms, which I'll be talking about in a video soon. It was really, really good. But we played a lot of disc golf. We played disc golf in 3 different courses in Kansas City over the course of the 3 days. My arm's a little tired, but it was fun to experience those 3 different courses. And we ate good food. We kind of just relaxed and had a nice time in Kansas City. I actually don't have many other stories. Maybe something will come to mind, but it was a very simple weekend, but really nice to get away and get outside a little bit with people in our bubble. Tim says, in my recent April Fool's post, you mentioned the number of hours that you're working. However, given the nature of the post, I'm not sure if that was just made up or based on reality. No, those numbers were real. Well, the so in the post I said that my current time every week is divided between around 65 hours spent on Stonemaier games and then the other 103 hours spent on my cats. That part was false. I do spend a lot of the time and attention on my cats, but not 103 hours. I do sleep. But yeah, 65 hours I think is pretty accurate right now for the amount of time I spend on Stonemaier games every week. Um, and Tim says, but I know from personal experience that with you that you seem to work pretty much most of the time. And I wonder, do you know how many hours a week you work, and do you have a particular goal for yourself that you try to achieve each week? I wouldn't say it's a goal. 65 is pretty close to what I work. I think I've just found over time that I have a sweet spot for how much I want to spend working. I really enjoy my work. I enjoy the amount of variety that I get in my job. I enjoy working every day. I rarely like to actually take a full day off. Even when I was in Kansas City, technically on vacation, I'd work a few hours in the morning, and I'd check in on email later in the day. And that's satisfying to me. It feels good to run Stonemaier games. It feels good to serve you and be there for you if you have questions. And it's also great to have Joe, our director of communications, to be there to answer a lot of those questions. That was something that was a lot harder for me to do vacations before Joe worked for Stonemaier Games. And Alex as well has been a huge asset for communications with retailers, localization partners, and distributors. But yeah, I would say that's accurate. But I wouldn't say it's a goal. It's not like I say, okay, I want to work 65 hours every week. That is my goal. I just work to try to get the job done. And with game design, the job is never done. But I really enjoy that side of things too. So I try to get that in a little bit every day. Humberto says, will there ever be a Scythe TV series? I hope so. I think that would be really awesome. I only have, Summer Games has the tabletop rights to Scythe, or tabletop rights to Jakob's 1920 plus universe. There's another company that has the digital rights to his 1920 plus universe. And someday, I think, I hope there is a possibility that Jakob will come to a deal that actually ends up creating something with someone who is either making a film or a TV series based on Scythe. That would be truly awesome, but I don't know. That's Jakob's property to deal with and work out. I'm here to help him if he ever wants it, but Jakob is very capable to take care of that. Carol confirmed that the Harry Potter Wizarding World in Orlando, or maybe the one in California, there's two of them, is awesome, and that makes me jealous. But I'm glad that you got to experience that, Carol. Justin says, "What is my opinion on contest or content in games?" Um, I think maybe contests. He says an example is Honey Buzz, where the Queen's contests are only able to be completed by a certain number of players. For example, if there are two players, only one gets the points. A new Kickstarter came out called Scrumpy Card Cider, where there are contests, but everyone can complete the contest, but at a reduced point payout, and I prefer this over Honey Buzz. Any thoughts on what you prefer? I really do like Honey Buzz. I don't remember that particular element of Honey Buzz. In general, I would call this a public goal. So if there's a public goal on the table that multiple players are trying to achieve, I think it is nice if everyone can get something out of it. Um, and I think a way of doing this, probably how Scrumpy did, is that they gave a lot of points to the player who finished in first in that contest, who either got there first, had the most at the end of the game, that type of thing, and then a lot less for second, and then kind of a compensation prize for third. And the reason I like this for public goals is because they're public. Everyone is going after them. Everyone's pursuing them. And if you pursue it for a long time, uh, and then are kind of just preempted by another player does better. I do like if there's just a little bit of a reward for you still for having gone through that effort. I think it's very different for a private goal where it can be all or nothing, but a public goal, that definitely is my preference. And I definitely prefer either of these methods over public goals that someone can claim and take away after you have been working to get there. But if someone claims it and take it away from the table, that to me is probably the most frustrating version of it. Let me look over the e-newsletter and see what else I'm missing here. So I am talking about again on the e-newsletter, the Wingspan speckled eggs. I know I've talked about that for the last month, but we do have those on the web store still, and they're beautiful. I don't think I've actually gotten to play a game with them yet of Wingspan because I've been playing Wingspan digital, but I need to play a game of Wingspan with the speckled eggs. I mentioned the Between Two Castles expansion. We will announce that next May, or not next May, this coming May, and next month. Oh, and uh, MeepleSource and Top Shelf Gamer, two of our partners, friends in the industry that make fancy tokens. Top Shelf Gamer recently announced a new line of realistic resource tokens, and MeepleSource has a Kickstarter going right now that includes special meeples for Scythe and Wingspan. These products are separate from Stamar Games. We don't get anything from them, but I really like these companies. I like the people who run them, and they are related to our games. So I wanted to mention them here in case you want to check those out. I had something else to mention. Oh yeah, the yeah, this is on my little sticky note here, but some content that I've created this past week that you might want to check out if you're curious is, in addition to the April Fool's post last Thursday, on Monday I posted about Clubhouse, which is kind of a new app right now that people are talking about. A lot of people have invited me to it, which I appreciate, but I haven't joined for a reason, and I detail that in the blog post itself. I also did a video this past weekend about catch-up mechanisms in games, and it was a slightly different format for a longer video. It wasn't a top 10 list. Our Stillmeyer ambassadors often answer surveys about their favorite games or about, in this case, their favorite catch-up mechanism. And I kind of went down the list and shared ambassador thoughts on a variety of different catch-up mechanisms in games. So if you're looking to discuss that or looking into that topic as a designer, you might check out that video on my YouTube channel. Let's see. Hi says, question for Wingspan. Does the existence of speckled eggs mean that future expansions will address potential effects of different egg colors? Great question. Yeah, we've been asked about that, about the colors of the eggs. And the answer is no. Like the colors of the eggs will never matter in terms of gameplay because of colorblind issues. Um, uh, yeah, it's just even though the speckled eggs do make it easier, I think for people who have color blindness to identify one egg versus another, the speckled eggs are completely optional, and yeah, I don't think the egg colors, or I know the egg colors will never matter in a game. The only exception to that would be like if a fan made a rule suggestion that people, a rule variant that people could play with, a house rule that made egg colors matter. I'm fine with that. People can share that sort of thing at any time, but there won't be anything official about that. Sean says, I didn't think that you could donate blood after having the vaccine. Have you heard anything about that? That is a great question. I don't know. I'm assuming since hopefully everyone in the US will get vaccinated, everyone in the world will get vaccinated, that people will still be able to donate blood. So that doesn't seem right to me. That doesn't seem correct that people just wouldn't be able to give blood anymore after having the vaccine. But that's a fantastic question, Sean, and I will look that up. If anyone else wants to look that up while I'm talking, I think that would be a helpful answer for people to have live. Um, I'll make a note about it in case no one does. Uh, Guillaume says, thanks for the Instagram like on my game Ruse this morning. Would love to chat about it someday. Well, feel free to share your thoughts in the comments here. This is where we chat about things. And also we talk about games. The other main place that I talk about games is the comments of my game design YouTube channel. So feel free to always join the comments there to talk about game design if you'd like. Chad says that he's getting his vaccine right now in CVS. He's watching this while he's in CVS getting his shot. Kevin has a question about the viticulture expansion. And Kevin, I am excited about the expansion, but I'm not sharing details about it yet. It's still a work in progress, and probably I won't start talking about what's actually in the viticulture expansion until early 2022. But I am very excited to talk about it then. Tim says, do I have a space tiles list posted anywhere for Tapestry? There was one that confused us. That is noted in the rulebook, actually, Tim. Yeah, if you look in the expansion rulebook for the one that you're referring to, which is the military icon equals 5 VP, that is noted in the expansion rulebook. So any icons that aren't mentioned in the quick reference guide for the core game are mentioned in the expansion rulebook, and that one is mentioned there. What that means is whenever you advance on the military track, you gain 5 victory points. But I'm 100% sure it is in the expansion rulebook, so check it out there. Shakid says, "What do I do? Consultations with aspiring designers." No, I don't do any private consultations or private advice. I like public conversations because that way more than one person can participate in them, more than one person can benefit from them. And your time is valuable, my time is valuable, and so I think that's a better, more generous use of time than doing something private. So if you ever want to discuss game design, join the conversation on my game design YouTube channel or join these live chats. I'm happy to chat about game design here in the chats here. I know that doesn't help you if you have very if you like want me to play your game, but my focus is on Stonemaier games. I'm happy to play published games, but if you're looking for playtesters, for example, there are other ways to get playtesters. I don't playtest games for other designers unless we're publishing the game. Rick says, I just got the first physical copy of the game I've been making from game designers. The card edges are rough and inconsistent. Is this the product of choosing a poor card quality? If so, what card type would you suggest? I'm a big fan of Ivory Core. I don't know if that's a universal term. That's a term that Panda Game Manufacturing uses. That's my manufacturer, and I really like Ivory Core. But if the card edges are rough, it could be a combination of two things. One, it could be the card stock. It also could be the die cut, like the machine that's actually like stamping down on the sheet of cards and cutting those cards. It could be that too. It could be a dull die cut, an old die cut that they need to update. So I would ask about those two things. Yeah. Justin from Room 51 says, I've been thinking about some of my favorite mechanisms lately and wondered what are some mechanisms that you absolutely refuse to use in any Stonemaier game? That I absolutely refuse to use. I don't know. I'd be pretty hard pressed to say that there's a mechanism that I would absolutely not use. There's certainly versions of mechanisms that I probably wouldn't use. Um, but I love the challenge of taking a mechanism that exists, even if it's one that I don't gravitate towards, and making something interesting out of it. I mean, look, I have a video about exceptions to my gaming rules, which is basically a video about games that I generally do not gravitate towards. But in my video, I stay positive. I talk about games in those genres, those mechanisms that I actually really love. But I have a list because I was going to revisit that video someday, and I think I have a few games on the list. Let's see. Um, where is it? Exceptions. Okay, here. Uh, so on the list, I have like trivia games. Using trivia as a mechanism, I'd be pretty hard pressed to put that in one of our games. Um, Pick up and deliver isn't something that I get excited about, but there are exceptions to that. Trick taking. Again, there are exceptions. Like I like the Fox and the Forest. I like the Crew. It isn't a mechanism that I get really excited about. I probably wouldn't put that in one of my games, but I don't hate it. There are games that I like with it. Um, yeah, those are the ones that come to mind on this list. Pick up and deliver, trivia, and trick taking are mechanisms that you probably won't see in a Stonemaier game, but you never know. Mario is joining us from Puerto Rico, and he says he has a YouTube channel called the Gaming Channel, the Gaming Dragons YouTube channel. Well, welcome, Mario. Thanks for joining us today. I think I've covered all the stuff in our e-newsletter, but feel free to bring up questions about it. It's in the description. A link is in the description here. George says, any new major updates in terms of sustainability for Stonemaier games? On Monday, Panda had their monthly crowdcast, and this time it was about sustainability in the board game industry. I mean, the major update that we had a few months ago is that starting in, I think, like a month or two, games that will arrive, or products that will arrive in a month or two, will start using biodegradable plastic bags instead of normal plastic bags. So I think it's a corn-based plastic bag that we'll be using in the foreseeable future. So that is a big deal. That's a big thing that we're doing. We are still looking into alternatives for shrink wrap on games and in decks of cards. That's especially in decks of cards. I'd really like to figure that out. And Panda has been working on that using like paper wraps and things like that. But they haven't been able to find a way to prevent ink from rubbing off, the card ink from rubbing off on those paper strips. They're very careful about that. So they don't want to sacrifice quality, but at the same time, they are looking for solutions like that. But I don't have an update about that quite yet. But it is something that's on my mind all the time. Ivan says, which do I like more, Orleans or Hansa Teutonica? Both games that I really, really like. I would say I gravitate a little bit more to Orleans. Yeah, a little bit more. But I really like both of them. Carol says, are you starting your Wednesday in-person game nights again soon and possibly finishing that Charterstone campaign? Yeah, I got halfway through a Charterstone campaign with 4 friends before the pandemic, and that's been sitting inside my gaming table ever since. We are talking about the possibility of maybe having small game nights for vaccinated only people who still keep a tight, fairly self-isolated bubble in May. So we might try that. We're going to take baby steps back into that world though, because we want to be very careful. But at some point, we need to trust the vaccine and trust our friends are staying safe and things like that. So um, we were thinking about that, and then the group that I would play Charterstone with, um, all of them should be fully vaccinated with full efficacy within a few weeks. And so we might start talking about that. Maybe that'll be our first baby step to get together with that group for a little bit. I'm also going to start playing the King's Dilemma with the group, probably with masks on, but it depends on how long the sessions are. Maybe I don't know, we'll see how we do that. But it'll be, again, a fully vaccinated group. Um, and that will probably start in a few weeks as well. I'm excited to try out the King's Dilemma. Joshua says, unless I'm mistaken, Stonemaier doesn't have a Discord channel. Is this something you would be open to having? It's a good question. I do like Discord. I use it for virtual game nights. I use it for one of the games that I've been working on for a while. I use it for the Stonemaier shareholders. I don't have a general public Stonemaier Discord group. And the main reason is that it would be yet another thing to moderate. And currently we have a lot of different social media that we participate in and moderate. Facebook, social media, the blog, YouTube, Instagram, Board Game Geek. It's a lot, and so that's really the main reason that we haven't added it at this point. Uh, so at this point, I would say I lean towards not having one. I know it can be an asset, but with all those other things, especially the game specific Facebook groups, we have leaned against it so far. Yeah. Gerald says, what do publishers need to know about board game piracy? Uh, and are these a valid concern? Individuals making illegal print and play copies and a corrupt business mass producing copies. I think it depends on your scale. If you're just starting out, you probably don't have to worry about, or you don't have to worry about those things at all. I don't think. We didn't even we didn't see those things happening until Scythe got really popular, and then Wingspan got really popular, and we started seeing some counterfeit versions of those games show up in various places. Uh, and so I don't know, but those games are both exceptions to the norm. Those are games that have sold in the hundreds of thousands of copies. I don't think this is something that counterfeiters spend a lot of time on, at least in terms of mass production, unless you have a very, very successful game. In terms of illegal print and play copies, I don't know. I am always a little worried about that, but I kind of counter it by putting components in our games that are hard to copy. All of our games have some sort of component hook that is not really easy to emulate at all. And so someone could print out a copy at home, but it would be pretty difficult to do so. But along the way, like I do, like with the new scoring app that we have, I asked him not to put full images of the cards on that scoring app because that just makes it a little bit easier for someone to just copy those cards and do something with them instead of using the official game. So I am still a little hesitant about it. I definitely don't think it's something that you need to worry about if you're starting out very small or if you're starting out at all. Everyone starts out small. Yeah. Kenneth says he's new to watching my live stream, and maybe you've answered this in previous streams already, but have you ever considered doing a fan-made expansion to Scythe? Basically manufacturing the top 3 of fan-made Scythe factions found online. Yeah, that's a great question, Kenneth. And we actually already have. The Wind Gambit was originally a fan expansion from Kai Stark. He had the idea for the airships, and he designed the expansion. He play tested it, and then he posted it on the Scythe Facebook group. I love the idea, and I ended up co-designing it with Scythe. Co-designing it with Kai. It needed a lot of work from there, and it eventually became the Wind Gambit. And the same thing happened for Scythe's for the campaign expansion for the Rise of Fenris. Ryan had created a campaign expansion. I loved what he did with it. We ended up pretty much scrapping what he had written, but a lot of the ideas he had ended up contributing to the final campaign in the Rise of Fenris. It kind of happened with My Little Scythe. My Little Scythe was a fan creation that we ended up publishing. There's an element in Tuscany that has that is a fan creation. So yeah, we do pay attention to fan creations quite a bit. The other side of your question though is. Oh, and I should say, it is never as simple as just saying, okay, that's a cool thing, we'll start printing it tomorrow. It takes a lot of work for us to get it up to the Stonemaier level of quality that we're looking for. There's a lot of development, there's a lot of design. I was the co-designer on all these expansions. There's a lot of play testing that goes into it. Also art, graphic design. There's a lot that goes into any product. So the final answer to your question is we are done making content for Scythe, the tabletop game. It is complete. It is finished. We still are excited when fans create content to share publicly for free for people to try. But Stonemaier Games is officially done making Scythe content. The Scythe story is complete in terms of Scythe, the tabletop game. I am open to making other worlds in Jakob's 1920 plus world, but Scythe, the tabletop game itself, is complete. Yeah. David says, I've been seeing ads online for Scythe and Tapestry on large sites like New York Times. Is that new, or have the internet guides finally realized what I look at online? Uh, I mean, we don't advertise on the New York Times. We pay a little bit for Google ads every month, but it's very, very little. Um, I'm curious about what that is. I'm hoping it isn't a scam. So, David, the next time you see one of those, please take a screenshot and send it to me and click on it and send me a link to where it takes you because I want to make sure that it isn't a scam. Because we have seen that happen for Wingspan where people were selling uh, air. They weren't selling anything. They were making people click on ads on Facebook and Instagram, on Google, and taking people to sites that weren't real. They didn't have any copies of the game and they were selling something that wasn't real. So I'm always a little concerned about that. So let me know what you see the next time you see that. Another David, two different Davids, says, any update on the board game arena implementation of Tapestry? Unfortunately, I do not. I do not have an update about that yet. I do stay in touch with Board Game Arena to see what's going on. But basically, the person who's working on it, is a volunteer who just works on it in his free time. I'm very appreciative of him working on it, but it is taking a little while for him to get through it. Yeah. Tim says, do I think of myself as a wide player or a deep player? He says, I found some reviewers who play so many games that a game they like won't get play for another several years. Sometimes I like to give a game the attention it deserves while also playing new titles. I do a little bit of both. There's certainly, I love the comfort of playing a game that I know really, really well, where I don't have to think about the rules, even if it's a deep, complex game, and exploring new like factions in Terra Mystica, things like that. I do really enjoy that. I also enjoy trying new things too. So I would say I try a little bit of balance of the two. I probably play more new to me games than old games, but yeah, in general, it's a fair mix of the two for me. Tim says, I'm obsessively watching the hatching of peregrine falcons on PG&E's office tower in San Francisco. He says also my copy of Celebrating Birds came in. It's beautiful. So yeah, this is a book published by HarperCollins in coordination with Natalia and Anna, the artists who created all the beautiful birds in Wingspan. And they created a book of all those birds to showcase those birds. And I think the book, like Tim says, it just came out. So hopefully if you're curious about the birds in Wingspan, want to see bigger art than you can see on the cards, feel free to check out that book. Nick is here. Nick says, I've watched a few of these, but it's my first time live. Well, welcome to the live version of this, Nick. He says, I've been playing a lot of Dune Imperium lately, and one thing that I love about it is the consistent tension between the different decisions you make on every turn. I love that too. Well said about the tension. I love the tension in that game. He says, if you had to suggest one of your games that has the same feeling as Dune Imperium, what would you suggest? I would probably say Viticulture, because Viticulture has that same worker placement tension as Dune Imperium. Maybe thematically it could tie a little bit to Euphoria, but I would say Viticulture is very similar in terms of the flow, the worker placement, the tension. Thematically very different, but yeah, I would recommend Viticulture if you enjoy Dune Imperium. Sam says, when can we expect the 2020 Stakeholder Report? I look forward to it every year. Actually, funny you asked, Sam. I plan on writing that tomorrow. Unless something big and crazy comes up, I will be doing the Stakeholder Report tomorrow. And just to clarify what that is, if you're not familiar with it, you are a stakeholder of Stonemaier Games. Even just by watching this, you're investing your time in Stonemaier Games. Stakeholders are anyone who benefits from Stonemaier Games or is invested in any way in Stonemaier Games, whether it's your time, whether you bought one of our products, whether you subscribe to our e-newsletter, if you're in one of our Facebook groups, you have the stakes of Stonemaier Games are in your hands just as much as they are in my hands. And so every year I post a report, kind of a behind the scenes report about how we're doing, how our year was last year, and where we stand today, and where we want to look in the future. And so tomorrow I'll be doing that on the Stonemaier Games blog. Giovanni says, how does one become a blind playtester for Stonemaier games? You can sign up first as a Stonemaier ambassador. That's on our website. And then every year or so, if I am looking for more playtesters, I send a quiz to those two Stonemaier ambassadors. And usually around 5%, maybe 10% of people fill out that quiz with the correct answers, and they become eligible to become playtesters in the future. Yeah. Guillaume says he's looking forward to Red Rising. Any other upcoming expansions for Tapestry in the future? Yes, we are working on a second expansion for Tapestry that will be released later this year. Yeah. Eric says, do you have the prototype of the legendary Wingspan box? I have the first prototype. It's a little off camera over here, but I don't have the second prototype yet. However, I'm expecting it fairly soon. I don't have an exact date, but Panda is working on it right now, and I should have that fairly soon. I'll probably do another maybe live stream on the Wingspan Facebook group to talk about that, and I will update the Wingspan big box page of our website as well when that happens. Simon says, have I seen the recent Kickstarter for Hippocrates? If so, I was wondering what your thoughts were on it. I like how the designers have implemented the doctor and patient tiles. I probably need to dig deeper into that. I glanced at it for a few minutes, but I did not dig all that deep. So I'll make a note to check out the Hippocrates Kickstarter. Thank you for sharing that. Andre says, my wife and I love Wingspan. He's working on developing a fun campaign for it, a fan campaign. That's awesome. Our speckled eggs came in a couple weeks ago, and they are great. Any news on the double-sided neoprene mats? Let's see what our estimate for the neoprene mats is. Neoprene mats. We are looking at more Wingspan neoprene mats in August. Yeah, so they are in a print run that we started fairly recently. Any print run takes usually 4 to 5 months to get from start to finish to get to our fulfillment centers. So I know that seems very distant right now, but that is what we're looking at right now. Yeah. I got to pull up my e-newsletter again. There we go. Patrick says, how was my Easter? Did you table anything new this past weekend? The only game that got to the table this past weekend, other than disc golf, which was not on the table but outside, was the Cursed Horde expansion to Fantasy Realms, which I really enjoyed. I love Fantasy Realms. Betsy says, how soon into the process do you add games to the chart in the newsletters? I've noticed Codename Dive has been there for a while, but are there more games in early brainstorming phases? Yeah, that's a great question, Betsy. I typically only add things to the e-newsletter when we are almost definitely going to make it. And some of them, I'm saying that carefully because sometimes there are games or products that get added to that list and then we don't end up making it. But I try to draw the line there. Like if we are very confident or fairly confident that we are actually going to make it, then I put it on there. I don't put accessories. I don't. So like the Wingspan big box won't show up on there, even though we are working on it. There are other things that we're working on that don't show up on there. But that is usually the line I draw. And the answer to your question is yes, there are plenty of things that are brainstormed, plenty of beginnings of ideas and things like that aren't on there. That we'll add later when they're ready. That's a good question. Try to be careful about that. I try to be careful about that. Jesse says, what was my best dining experience or favorite restaurant that you've ever been to? I've had so many. I mean, I love food. I love eating food, and that's very difficult to pick. Let me see if one comes to mind off the top of my head. Maybe a recent one. Actually, I had a really fun place in Kansas City this past weekend. We went to a place called McLean's in Kansas City. Definitely wasn't the peak of my dining experience, but it was good. It was really good. It was kind of a local, seemed to be a farm to table, fresh food, good ingredients, and a bakery was associated with the place. So we had these really delicious cookies alongside this delicious meal that we had. Not all that expensive, good COVID practices inside. We didn't eat there. We got the order to go. But if you're in Kansas City, check out McLean's, especially their bakery. It was very delicious. Scott Morris from GTS is here. He says he has a show question. Do you think with the uncertainty, especially this year with shows, we may see more publishers lean into their own online shows, much like what Board and Dice is doing this weekend, or things like PortalCon, CMON Expo, etc. This allows them to control their environment more, their costs more, and ensure the people attending are focused on their products, maybe even using them as a big announcement point for fan service. I think we may be headed in that direction, but I'm curious if you've ever thought about taking these shorter times you are online and turning them into a Stillmeyer convention or ScytheCon or something like that. That's a really interesting question, Scott. I think I did. I may have done a blog post about conventions, like digital conventions in general, earlier this year, but I didn't talk about this concept, which is a publisher taking control of it and just saying, okay, we are doing our own little online convention this weekend. The closest we've come to it is that the Stonemaier Games Design Day, which is generally a 100% convention, or not convention, 100% unpub-like event for playtesting games. Usually we do that in person. We had it online this past year instead. It was much smaller as a result. I think we had maybe 20 attendees as a result. But we did try that. We used Discord for it, and it worked fairly well. But I haven't delved into these publishers that are doing maybe a big event style convention online, and I need to look into that a little bit more. I think more publishers will do that. Yeah, I think that theory, your hypothesis is correct. I think publishers will do that. I don't know if they'll ever completely replace conventions, if that's been a major part of their marketing practice in the past. But in the foreseeable future, I could definitely see that being online and focusing online. Will Stonemaier Games do it? I don't know, because conventions have never really been a big part of our practice, but online presence has been. So that's an interesting middle ground there, where our online interactions, our online communities are a big part of what we do, but it's more of an ongoing thing, not a single event style thing. But that is interesting to think about, and I'll make a note about that to explore later. You mentioned Board and Dice. You mentioned PortalCon. And if anyone's had good or bad experiences with these conventions, not necessarily bad, not necessarily negative, but if you have thoughts about your experiences with these online conventions, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments here. And CMON must be doing theirs virtually as well. Yeah, great question, Scott. Thanks for joining in today. Amy says, looks like you need to wait 2 weeks if you get the Johnson & Johnson vaccine because it's live attenuated virus versus the mRNA virus, but yes, you can still donate. Okay, so thank you, Amy. Amy's answering the question about donating blood. So basically, you just need to wait a little while after you get vaccinated. You are not prevented from donating blood forever. That is wonderful to know, and that was my assumption here, that if everyone in the world got vaccinated, it would be a little odd if no one could ever donate blood again. That would be a big problem. Sean says, do you think that there's a way to add the Oceania bird cards to the deck without using the new playmats and nectar? Yeah, we mentioned that in the FAQ on the Wingspan Oceania page on our website. There I believe, are maybe 17 cards that you need to remove, or if they come up, you just remove them. All but one have nectar in the cost, so they're really easy to identify. One has nectar in its activated ability. But yeah, it's very easy to remove those cards. In fact, when I taught Wingspan Oceania to my parents, I did that. We used the original player mats, and I just removed those nectar cards and we played without them. It was very easy to play that way. So yeah, but there is a discussion about that on the Wingspan Oceania FAQ. Scott says, are there any of your games that didn't perform as well as anticipated and that you would have done things otherwise? Yeah, I mean, the major case study that I used for this is Between Two Castles of Madkin Ludwig, which I thought was going to be a huge hit. I love the game. I love the core mechanism. I love castles. I love the art in it. I love so much about it, and it didn't do as well as we thought. And over the years, I've tried to evaluate the reasons why. One of them might be that the way I announced it was different than how I announce things now. Now I announce something and I reveal details about it over the course of a few weeks, and then we have the pre-order a few weeks later. When I did Castles, I announced it and I revealed it, and we started the pre-order on the same day. Everything was on the same day, and that was a lot. I think that was maybe too much. It didn't go over well with retailers and distributors. Didn't resonate as well with customers. All those things didn't work. But that was just the launch. There have to be bigger reasons. I think part of it is that it isn't a game it's designed mostly for 3 to 7 players. It does have a 2-player variant, but it isn't the focus of the game. And it didn't come with a solo mode, which I think was a big deal. So many of our games, all of our other games, come with solo modes now. fairly robust solo modes through Automa Factory. And so we are fixing that with the expansion. And I'm curious to see what that does for the lifetime of the game, the life cycle of the game. If having the solo mode in the Between Two Castles expansion helps, if that will reinvigorate it, or if it won't. So I'm curious to see what happens with that. But yeah, that is my case study game to think about there. Gerald also found a link showing that the Red Cross says it's safe to donate blood after having been vaccinated. Hopefully, there isn't some misinformation being passed around out there, because that's unfortunate if it is. Dave says, "I'd love to design a game, but not sure where to start. Any ideas?" Yeah, Dave, I would go to the Stormbringer Games website and go to, maybe someone can post the link here, but there's a link under, I believe it's under Kickstarter. Let's see where it is. It's under Kickstarter. The second link right up below that is how to design a tabletop game. That is a great place to start. I have a list of resources there, and starting from things to start with. Like there's a video that I have about that talks through the general concept of designing a tabletop game. And then I have a lot of other resources that you can check out there. Dave says, "Have I gotten the new Celebrating Birds book?" I have. In fact, I meant to have it in front of me today. I have it over on a counter over here, but I do have the new book. It is really, really beautiful. Nick says, "I know all Stonemaier games have great components, but can you enjoy a game without awesome components and minis as much as a game with all the bells and whistles? Something like Shores of Tripoli versus Scythe." Yeah, I can. I mean, there are games that I have and love that have very simple components. Hanami Koji is an example of that. Hanami Koji is just some tokens and some cards. However, Hanami Koji has beautiful art. If those cards didn't have beautiful art or clear, clean graphic design, a good user interface, that would be a major deterrent for me. It's hard for me to be immersed in a game when the art isn't great. There are games that I love that I don't love the art. Castles of Burgundy, Watergate. Watergate is a game I love. I think the art is thematic, but I don't love. I like the game board itself, but the cards use, I believe, photographs. And I don't like that as much for some reason. I would prefer art. Not that photographs aren't art. I would prefer illustrations. But I still love the game. So yeah, I definitely can enjoy a game despite that. But it is much easier for me to get into a game if the art and the graphic design, the user interface is beautiful. The components I think matter a lot less to me. I don't care if a game has minis or not. I don't care if I mean there are things that excite me. I like custom dice. I like custom meeples. Those things excite me. But they definitely don't. The if they aren't there, that doesn't get in the way of my enjoyment of the game. Tim's enjoying my crowdfunding book now. He says, "Really wish Wrinkle could be brought back to life." Yeah, Wrinkle is the novel that I wrote back in 2013. And maybe someday I'll just self-publish it and put it out there for people to read. I had fun writing it, but I think it requires a pretty heavy revision, and I haven't wanted to spend my creative time on that in quite some time because I have so much fun spending my creative energy on board games. Carl says, "Am I looking for any new game ideas as I have both a fantasy and sci-fi game designed and looking for a publisher?" Um, Thank you for asking about that, Carl. Uh, I'm never looking for new ideas, and it sounds like you have more than an idea, but I want to differentiate that because we have plenty of ideas. Ideas are easy. It's execution that matters. So taking an idea and actually designing it, writing the rules, playtesting it multiple times, prototyping it, all those things, executing an idea and turning it into something real and playtested and functional and fun. That's what matters to me. That is so much more than an idea. Uh, we are open to submissions. There's a submissions page on our website that you can look for the types of fully designed games that we are looking for. But we also don't publish many of them. We only publish 1 or 2 games a year. Usually one of them is designed by me and maybe the other one is designed by someone else. And so you're welcome to submit a game to us if you think it is a good fit for us based on our guidelines on that page. But I just wanted to preempt that and say that we aren't looking for many games or more. We're very much focused on quality over quantity. Tim says, "Do you have any updates on the pendulum overlay sheets and will you make a version for the Automa?" I meant to actually have them today to show you because I do have some initial samples of what they'll look like. They're clear, so they probably won't look great on camera anyway. But I did get a sample from Panda, and they are working on a revised sample for me now as well. So we're definitely a few months away from having those made. The manufacturing process will take a while, as usual, but we are closer now, and I do have samples about that. Tim says, "Will I make a version for the Automa?" I wasn't planning on doing that. No, I was just going to make one version of it because it requires either laser cutting or die cut, and just have people use those for the character mats. Yeah. Alex says, a friend of mine here in St. Louis, also from the Dukes of Dice, says, who is a celebrity that, were they to mention some of our games on social media, would you be the most excited about? That's a fun question. Um, hmm. I was actually this maybe is a little different than exactly what you're asking here, Alex. But I was just listening to a podcast with Richard Garfield today. Richard Garfield was on the Nerd Lab podcast, and if I ever heard that Richard Garfield had played one of my games, that would make my day. That would make my month. Richard is, if you don't know, is the designer of Magic, Magic the Gathering, and a lot of other wonderful games. He's most known for that, but he also designed Keyforge. Was the initial designer for Keyforge and Bunny Kingdom, uh, King of Tokyo, Netrunner. He's an amazing Hall of Fame designer type guy, and that would be really cool just to know if he has played one of my games. Would make my day. Let's see. Andrew points out, I was talking about sustainable games, and Andrew says, I've definitely had several games where cards are packaged with just a paper strip. And yeah, I've seen that too. Um, but so I don't know if that means that other manufacturers have figured it out or if they just have lower quality control than Panda. Uh, I don't want to speak poorly about them, but I know Panda has extensively tested those paper strips, a wide variety of paper strips, and they still have not found one that does not have ink rub off on them. And so other companies, I think, are just probably using them anyway. And maybe at a certain point, Panda will just say, okay, this generally does not rub off the ink and this is good enough. Or maybe they'll put a card on the front and the back that, like just a blank card in the front of the back of the pack, something like that. Um, I don't know. There are ways to get around that. But yeah, I'm glad some companies are at least trying it, and we will do it once we can keep our level of quality and then offer that more sustainable option. Tom is also joining us from Sweden. He says, any groups on getting a gaming group together? I'm pretty limited to one player games as my girlfriend doesn't play, and it's hard to get people together to play. My friends might be up for a game of Monopoly or something in the pub, but not something heavier. In the pre-pandemic times, my answer to that would be to go on online communities where people are talking about games, and whenever you participate in those communities, share your location so you can get an idea in case anyone else sees that and they're like, oh, I'm in that city too. Also, I think meetup.org, meetup.com, I think it's a great way to find local gaming groups, and also local conventions can be a great way to find people who play games in your area, people that you connect with. Uh, in the current times, that's a lot harder, but maybe there's some virtual ways that people can recommend for finding gaming groups. Actually, it's harder, but it's also easier because it means you can play games with anyone. You're not stuck with your area specifically. So you might look for some solutions for that. I think you just have to kind of keep an eye on time zones, because I have a virtual game night that I host, but someone we like you are asleep when I have my game night, for example, because I'm in St. Louis. But you might look for some virtual options, some online options as well. Andrew says, "What Stonemaier published game are you the most proud of in its success?" Um, I mean, I often look at Between Two Cities for this because that was the first game that we published that wasn't designed, or at least co-designed by me. So that was an exciting step in the Stonemaier Games process of becoming more than just a vanity publisher, basically. And Between Two Cities has done quite well. It's certainly not at the magnitude of Scythe or Wingspan or even Viticulture, but it has sold quite well, and it continues to sell well over the years. We continue to reprint Between Two Cities, which is really exciting for me to see over time. So yeah, I would say Between Two Cities is up there, but I love all of our games, especially those that I didn't design. I love seeing them be successful for all the different people that were uh, who participated in bringing those games to life, from the designers, the developers, the graphic designer, the artists, the playtesters, the proofreaders. There's so many people that put their time and effort into a game. It's so much more than just one person, and so much more than just the publisher, me. So I'm very proud of those games. Carol, I think, heard that I am soon going to start playing King's Dilemma, and she says, King's Dilemma is great. Such simple mechanisms combined with an interesting narrative, having you make tough choices. We've been playing with friends and an overhead camera. I think it would be even more engaging in person. I recommend not going too long between sessions. There are multiple storylines that can be hard to keep track of between sessions if it has been a while. And Carol, I may not get to see your answer today because we're coming to the close here, but I'm curious about your ideal length for a session. Because we were thinking about trying to knock out the whole campaign over the course of, I don't know, 4 to 6 weeks and sitting down for maybe 3 hours at a time and playing it. And so I'm curious to hear your thoughts on trying to play it that way. Tim says, is there a chance that the mini expansion to Wingspan that Dusty was talking about on the mill is heading to Stonemaier Games? I have asked Elizabeth about that. Elizabeth is fully in charge of all gameplay content, except for Automa content, but all multiplayer game content for Wingspan. And if she is excited enough by the Frogmouth promo pack for us to actually publish it, I'm happy to do that. I'm more than happy to do that and work that out with her and work it out with the designer Travis who worked on that promo pack. So yeah, if Elizabeth wants me to, I'm happy to do that. Edgar says, did you ever consider having an idea for an expansion turn into a full-blown standalone game? I haven't had that happen yet for me for any of my games. My ideas for expansions are so dependent on the core game itself that I haven't had that happen. I could see that maybe happening for Red Rising, but we'll have to see about that. Let's see. Tiago says, let's see. I'll skim down to the question here, Tiago, because he says, okay, no, he does have a question. He says, it's really difficult to play Red Rising with more than 2 or 3 people because some will inevitably have the cards on the board facing the opposite direction, which makes them very difficult to read and causes some havoc during play. I know there isn't an easy solution for this, but was this issue ever discussed during playtesting? Absolutely, yeah. I would actually say the issue isn't, I mean, you call it very, very difficult. I respect your perspective on that. I wouldn't say it's that bad because we have incorporated icons into the cards. And really at any given time, you only need to see 4 cards on the table. There are only 4 cards out there on the table. And so you can pick one up and just look at it and read the card if you need to. There's only 4 of them that you need to pay attention to. Also, you can pretty easily sit 2 people on one end of the table and 2 people right next to the board. So with up to 4 players, I don't think 2 or 3 is a little low for that. I think 4 is maybe, if you go above 4, if you go to 5 or 6, that's where you have someone looking at the board upside down. We did think about this quite a bit in terms of the board design. And basically we decided we could have made like a circular board, but then at least one card would be upside down to every player at the table. And so we decided that it would be better to have more than half of the players be able to see the cards face up, or at least from a readable angle, than have no players be able to do that for at least one of the cards. And your other question was, are there any Red Rising expansions in the pipeline? And no, not yet, because we haven't even gotten the core game to all pre-order customers yet. We have a lot to ship once the U.S. shipment arrives. Ivan says, I asked you once about the visitor cards in viticulture that I thought were overpowered. You told me to get more visitors to get more balance in terms of getting victory points. Since it was hard for me to find them, I was wondering if there is a possibility to get a big box or deluxe version of viticulture that includes everything. No, we don't do that. We sell our products separate a la carte, so that people can get exactly what they want and not what they don't want. And also to respect people who have already invested a lot into our games. That if they already have components A, B, and C, that if they want D, they just buy it because D is available separately. Yeah. So no, we don't do those big box versions of games. At least, yeah. Jake here, one of my disc golf buddies, says, I'm curious, what are your thoughts on competitive play for Stonemaier games? Could you ever see yourself offering prize support or officially sanctioning a world championship? Or even creating a game geared towards this type of play, like 2-player battle games like Magic the Gathering and Keyforge? Jake is a big Keyforger. We don't publish 2-player only games, so I'll eliminate that off the bat. We have a long time ago, I tried the tournament format. I tried to host a Euphoria tournament, and it was fun, but I walked away from it feeling like it just wasn't a fit for kind of the Stonemaier games, I don't know, psyche, philosophy, where the point of playing our games is I don't know. I don't want to say that competitive games aren't or tournament level games aren't fun, but where the point of playing a game is the fun, not winning, not the focus on actually winning the game. So it just felt a little weird, felt a little off afterward. And so since then, we haven't done official tournaments. Every now and then, I'll offer prize support to someone who's running a tournament somewhere, but it is just not a big part of the focus of our games. Um, so at this point, I would say that that isn't something that we're pursuing. Maybe it's possible someday if we have a game that that really fits that format, we might consider it, but it isn't something that we have designed around to this point. Because I think that's maybe part of the point. I think tournament style games work need to be designed for that format in general. I think if you go into it saying, okay, this is a game that I'm designing specifically for competitive play, for tournament play, uh, that you'll come out with a much better outcome than if you just design a game and then on the back end say, "Ooh, let's have a tournament for this game." Um, yeah, that's my 2 cents about it. Sean says, "Have I considered?" Oh, Sean has a thought about putting the Red Rising board on a Lazy Susan. That's one of those turntables on the table that could certainly work. Socrates says, "Do I enjoy?" I'll try to get through some kind of rapid fire questions here because I'm a little bit over here, but I'll rapid fire some questions real quick to wrap up. Socrates says, "Do I enjoy escape room style games like Unlock and Exit? I think you'd like to design. What would do you think you'd like to design one in the future?" Um, I probably wouldn't design one, but I do enjoy them. I do enjoy Unlock. I really enjoyed Star Wars Unlock. I don't think I played Exit yet. And one of my favorite games is Time Stories, and Time Stories is kind of a big thematic escape room with a big mission to accomplish. So I really like Time Stories. I also love the game called Escape Room in a Box is also excellent, and I enjoy escape rooms, the real life escape rooms as well. Let's see. Just scrolling through for the last few questions. Jesse says, have I ever used Gold Belly to order food? I have not. I haven't heard of Gold Belly. I'll check that out. Gold Belly. Dan says he loves pieces in St. Louis. That's actually, I mentioned earlier that we used to host an event called the Design Day, and that was where we hosted it. And we'll continue to host it there in the future. This is Pieces in St. Louis. He says, last time I was by you, I went there 3 times in 3 days. Do you go there just for your events, or do you go there casually as well? Pre-pandemic, I went there casually a few times, but mostly when I play games, it's at people's houses. But I do love the atmosphere there. It's a really, really wonderful place to go if you want to play games, learn games, and have good food. Their food at Pieces is really, really good, and their drinks are delicious too. They have like fun thematic gaming related twists on their drinks. Matt says, is there anything that you missed from when Stonemaier Games was a smaller company? There are certainly things that I miss, yeah. I think the main things that I miss are maybe some of the social media reactions to things, or the social media perception of Stonemaier Games and me and things like that. There are certainly assets to being smaller in that way, yeah. But a lot of the other things I love how big the community is now around Stonemaier Games. That is a lot of fun for me to experience and be a part of. And it's fun for me to have a few fellow full-time coworkers for the first time this year, or last year was the first time with Alex and Joe. That was fun too. Yeah, and it's like the point of my company is to bring joy to tabletops worldwide. And so, staying being small, we were trying to do that, but now I think we're accomplishing that a lot more because we can bring our games because we are bringing our games to more people worldwide. Scroll through here for a few extra questions. Robert says, can we pay to get extra parts? He says his puppy chewed up a My Little Scythe faction, so I don't think that qualifies to fill out the form for replacement parts. Actually, Robert, that completely qualifies the replacement parts form. We are happy to replace anything that you break that's missing. That's whether it's you open the box that's missing, or if you break it, if you lose it, we are here for you. We really, really mean that. You can fill out our replacement parts form at any time for anything that you are missing that's broken that you need for one of our games. If you want to offer to pay for it, you're welcome to do that. If that feels right to you, we are happy for you to pay for shipping, for example, for a part, because some of them are somewhat expensive. But we consider that our responsibility. We love pets. Everyone at some of our games has pets, and we know that pets do weird things with game components. And our support really is there for the entire life cycle of the game, no matter who you bought the game from. I think that there are rare exceptions to that. Like if someone somehow buys a game that is an empty box, we're not going to replace the entire game. But there are very few exceptions to that. So yeah, go ahead and fill out the form right now, and we'll help you out. Dave says, have I seen Keith Law's top 100 board game list? Yeah, Keith is great. It's neat that he's applied his writing skills to and his love of board games to sharing that with the world as well. I have not. I don't think I've seen his top 100 list recently, but I know he loves Wingspan. I think he enjoys Scythe as well. He seemed to enjoy Tapestry when he played it. Yeah, but I don't think I've seen that list. Let's see. Just a few more questions here. If I can find any more. No. Justin says, "What is a piece of advice that you'd like to give your younger self?" Um, I'd like to tell my younger self that my metabolism won't stay good forever and that I have to actually work on that. I had fantastic metabolism when I was younger, and I probably should have eaten a little differently, knowing that someday I needed to prep my body for a day when my metabolism would not be as well as good. Yeah. Tina has a nice comment about customer service. Thank you, Tina, for saying that from all the way over there in Ireland. Nick says his wife just surprised him with a copy of Star Wars The Queen's Gambit. It's a grail game for many people. Any grail games that you own or are trying to get into your collection? For a while, I had one. It was the Hobbit version of Love Letter, but then someone very kindly sent it to me, so I have that now. Yeah, I can't. I don't think I have any others right now on my list. All right. I think I've reached the end of the questions here. Went a little bit long today, but it was wonderful to spend this time with you today. I think I covered all my topics as well. Yeah, that's it for today. I hope you have a great day. And yeah, if you don't mind, my dad's in the hospital right now, so it's been a little tough to have today's podcast. But if you don't mind, sending good thoughts to my dad, I'd really appreciate that.